Welcome to your magical messaging and mindset tip with Christine Collins. Hey there, I'm Christine Collins, and I have for you today some really specific practical tips for how to up-level your goals around your content, your messaging, and your mindset. Now, sometimes we think of ourselves as being a certain way, having a certain personality, being capable of doing certain things, and we tend to operate as though that doesn't change, and there's not really a lot of wiggle room in terms of developing something new or moving in a new direction. But neuroscience disputes us because we know that the brain can grow and change, and there is something called neuroplasticity, which means that we can actually learn new things, develop new skills, new habits, new behaviors, and new beliefs. Now, we know that the brain records tools like visualization in a very similar way to memory, meaning that it gets recorded in a similar fashion to something that you have already done. And that's beneficial for many reasons. One is that when you visualize it and it gets recorded as a memory or in a similar way to a memory, when you encounter that in real life, whether it's a matter of something you're doing or something that you're experiencing, it's far less likely that it's going to trigger anxiety and a fight or flight response and ultimately lead you away from that goal or intention that you had. So by practicing it in your mind's eye first, when you set out to do that thing or to have that experience, you'll be far less likely to have a heightened central nervous system reaction and be more likely to actually be able to do it or to experience it. And it can kind of take the edge off of our resistance to actually moving forward and taking the steps that we need to take to make it a reality. So then your brain is kind of primed for it, expecting it, ready for it, and you'll be far less likely to do some of those things that may sabotage having it. So if you're trying to set goals, make changes to habits, behaviors, or experiences where you're trying to achieve something that you haven't done before, if you're not already tapping into this very powerful tool, you're kind of missing out on some very prime neuroscience that will benefit you and benefit your business. So there is a lot of research and there have been a lot of studies that demonstrate the effectiveness of visualization in terms of increasing speed or accuracy in performing certain tasks. It's very useful in areas around sports and athletic performance. There's been a lot of research around that, and it works particularly well if we already have some amount of proficiency in the area that we are trying to increase, because then we can kind of practice in our mind's eye in a way that will increase our performance of that thing when we go to do it. So the first tip utilizing this visualization tool is to keep it brief and very simple. So rather than visualizing like an entire chain of events that lasts an hour and takes you an hour to envision all of it, stick to 5 to 15 seconds of something that you would like to do or experience in the real world. So it's kind of like you're envisioning yourself practicing. Let's just say hypothetically, you are going to be delivering a presentation or a webinar or a speech of some kind, and you may have a little bit of anxiety around that, or you really want to get it perfect or really want to get it good. You can visualize specific components about 5 to 15 seconds and kind of rehearse that in your mind's eye. Now, it's really important when you're doing that you incorporate sensory details. So sights, sounds, taste, touch, sensations, and also emotion. So you're thinking about what might you be seeing, what might you be hearing, what might you be doing, and any other sensory details, and then also how you want to be feeling. Because the last thing we want to do is create a future of something that's going to happen or we're going to do and not come away satisfied with that outcome. So sometimes it's not just a matter of achieving a specific goal or reaching a certain outcome, but also feeling really good about it so that it's high vibe. It's not connected to something that's also negative. So for example, you're not bringing in money from something that was unpleasant. You are visualizing yourself feeling happy and excited in the context of that thing. So 5 to 15 seconds, brief little periods of doing something or experiencing something. The next piece is repetition. Repetition is essentially the mother of neuroplasticity, and it is a very key factor in making change. So we're looking at spurts of high repetitions, high intensity for a short period of time. So we have that 5 to 15 seconds, but many, many repetitions of that little period of time. So you can kind of gauge what works best for you. According to research, you'd be looking at like 50 repetitions of that little 5-second chunk. So we're taking a little sequence of events of 5 to 15 seconds, something that you're doing or experiencing, and then continuously envisioning it 50 times, 60 times, something in that range to really get that experience created for you in your mind. And of course, it's just as important to rest in between so that you're not getting overwhelmed. You're giving the brain the appropriate amount of time to kind of internalize all of this. So allowing for maybe 15 seconds or so in between those repetitions. So you're visualizing this little scene for 5 to 15 seconds, taking a 15-second break, and then coming back and visualizing it again, and doing that over the span of time for maybe about 50 repetitions. So ultimately, you're looking at maybe 20 to 25 minutes, depending on your goals and of course your time and how you would like to go about this. But if you block out about a half an hour or so, that should give you plenty of time to do some of these repetitions and allow yourself the space to fully feel into the sensory details of that visualization. Now, any amount of doing this practice is going to be very beneficial, even if you just do it once. But if you are really looking to maximize your visualization time, then it would be recommended to do this maybe 3 to 5 times a week, but actually as often as you are able to. Now, the good part is, once you achieve what you're looking for and you're able to kind of take that visualization, move it out into reality, get a satisfactory level of performance for the thing or the experience, there's no longer a need to continue to do those repetitions because now you have built the neural pathways that allow for this. And of course, with any type of learning, the more you use it, the more you reinforce it. And so you're kind of now doing the repetitions out in the world. And when it comes to setting your goals and deciding on something that you're going to begin doing or change, a lot of times we'll say something like, I am going to work out X amount of times per week, or X amount of minutes per week. And there is some research that shows that using a range is actually more effective than a flat number. So to give you an example, let's just say that the thing you're trying to implement is a workout regimen, or let's say it's to send a newsletter a certain amount of times per month, or to post on your Facebook page a certain amount of times per week. Rather than setting your goal at 5 days per week or 3 times per month, it's actually more effective for the long term if you use a range, a high-low range, and say between 5 and 7 days a week, or between 3 and 4 times a month. And the reason why this is so beneficial is because a lot of times the thing that stops us from consistently doing the thing is that once we have that first month where we don't do it the 5 times that we've said, we kind of feel like, oh, I failed. And we're much more likely to just give up on the goal than if we give ourselves the wiggle room and the range to make it safe, to make it okay that some months it will be 5, some months it may be 7, and anywhere in this range that you've designated for yourself is fine. So having that flexibility is really critical when it comes to setting your goals. And that includes any type of goal, whether it's business related, personal related, income related, behavior related. Give yourself the wiggle room to say, I am going to aim between here and here, and anywhere in that range I'm happy about. So that if you're having an off week, as we all do, then it's still okay for you to perform at the lower level and not beat yourself up about it. And of course, I would add, coming in from the mindset side, even if you have a week of 0, definitely still don't beat up on yourself, because that will only harm the future potential of doing it again, because now you're feeling badly about it. So keep your vibe about it high, your mindset uplifted, be optimistic, and most importantly, forgive yourself if you aren't hitting those specific marks. So that's a bit about how to maximize the very magical neuroscientific tool of visualization in terms of some of the metrics you can use to try to get a visualization practice going. And just to say again that any amount of visualization is very useful. So even if you can't follow what I've just laid out for you and suggested to you, I still highly recommend that you do it when you can, however often you can, and to whatever extent you can, because as you are visualizing the things that you want for yourself, whether it's an action on your end, a behavior on your end, performance on your end, or the capacity to have a new experience, like a more successful outcome to a webinar or something like that, imagining that in your mind's eye and allowing your brain to have that experience of achieving that thing will make it easier for you to do it in real life. So I hope you found this to be helpful. Once again, I'm Christine Collins. You can check out my work at transformcreate.com. And in the meantime, I wish you a most magical and creative rest of your day. Thanks for listening. This is Christine Collins at transformcreate.com.